My scripture reading this morning is taken from the book of Matthew's 11th chapter, 28th to the 30th verse. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavily laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And thus is the scripture reading of Matthew's 11th chapter, 28th to the 30th verse. Again, I say unto you, good morning. As the scripture states, and it is truly the calling from within, that God consciousness or the Christ consciousness is always calling us. Whatever it is that we're going through, and however heavy the burdens may be, God can make it light. But we have to be willing to turn within. And as it is said, yoke ourselves up with this consciousness, with this spirit of I am. Many of us know and have experienced that as we journey upon life paths, that the burden, the demand can be ever so great. So overwhelming that we don't find or have the time for rest, for peace. And so we go through life trying to meet the demands of the world that robs us of our peace, our joy, that frustrates us, stresses us out, and take away from us that inner peace. This spirit, this consciousness that is within us says, turn to me, come unto me. Take my yoke. In other words, hook up with me. Become that I am that I am within you. And as you have ever experienced a farmer with two horses hooked together, or two oxen hooked together pulling a plow, they share the heaviness of the seemingly burden. It's not all on one oxen or one animal. to make the pulling of the plow much easier. And so this inner voice is calling to us, take my yoke, become one with me, and I will take upon me the burdens that you are experiencing. But you know, we have a problem or an issue. We want to do it all ourselves. We want it to be all about me, not about the God that is responsible for the life that permeates every fiber of our being. We want the credit. We want to be recognized for whatever the achievements are. And sometimes we speak it from the tops of our heads. I did this all by myself. I didn't have any help. I'm the one that had to get up in the morning and go out and meet the man 5, 6 days a week. I'm the one that has to take on the responsibility of doing this, that, and whatever. Where was God when I needed God? When I was going through the trials and tribulations of life, where was God when I needed a helping hand? When I was struggling, pay my bills, to put a roof over my head, to feed my family. Where was God when I was seeking a job? Where was God when I was going through some difficulties in my relationship, in my marriage? I was having some issues with my children. Where was God? Well, God was where he has always been, right there within you. But we wasn't looking within. We was always looking without, to the external and not to the internal. And the answers that we seek, the truth that we need to know, did not exist, does not exist outside of ourselves. It has always exist within. And when we, or if we take the time to turn within and take the yoke of the Christ consciousness or the God consciousness upon us, then that which we seek, the truth to all of our prayers and problems and so-called issues, those answers will come to the forefront and they will manifest and express in our outer world. All that we ever needed to know has always and will always be within us. Even with the education, the academic educations and all of the alphabets that we might have before our name and behind our name and in and around our name, that worldly learning, the worldly knowledge cannot compare to the truth that is within us. You know, when we look at scripture and we read scripture and we start to study scripture at its deepest depth, you know, when we look at the story of Jesus and his disciples, there's nowhere in scripture where it says that Jesus attended any university, any college. There is nothing in scripture that states his disciples were academically educated. But yet there came a knowledge and a wisdom and a truth from within them that they went out into the world, blessing, healing, teaching, and uplifting the consciousness of the multitude. There's an old saying, a college education does not make an educated man. And spiritual wisdom has more value, has more weight than a worldly education. If you look around you, you will find and see that there are so many educated people struggling, having hard times. Some are homeless. Many are not able to feed themselves, not able to provide shelter for themselves. But when you look at those that have made the commitment to their spiritual growth and unfoldment, and many are without college education. Many have not been educated by the world. All of their needs are being provided for. You see, when that scripture states, take my yoke upon me, or take my yoke upon you, and learn of me. See, when you turn within and start to learning about that God consciousness or that God spirit within you. And as that scripture states, come unto me and I will give you rest. Rest meaning not having to worry about anything. Rest means knowing that whatever it is that you need, that's needed, will be provided for you. Don't you know? God takes care of his children. Just as a mother takes care of her newborn babies who are basically unable to do for themselves, so does God do for us. But God does not stop doing for his children. You see, when it comes to a mother and her babies, they get to a certain age where they're able to do for themselves. And they go out and make or find their own way in the world. No longer basically dependent upon the mother to feed them, to clothe them, to shelter. And yes, I'll be the first to admit that there are some grown children that has never left home, refuse to leave home because they always want to be there and have their mother provide for them. Such children never grow up. They never become independent. And I don't have any problem with that. And so it is with the consciousness and the Spirit of God. Regardless of how old we get, God is always providing for us wherever we go. Even if we turn away from God, God is still providing with life. God is still maintaining and sustaining every fiber of your being. God is still providing and nourishing us with the spiritual food that we need. But we are not looking within and recognizing and accepting that wherever we turn in life, God is still supplying our every need. Now we can close our eyes to this good. We can close our eyes to this blessing and think that we are so well prepared by our worldly knowledge and learning that we don't need God. We don't need God and do it all by myself. I want to share something with you about me. See, I can talk about me, but you get in trouble when you start talking about other folks. I remember one time I was sitting talking to my father. My father was a very, how should I say it, in tune person, so to speak. But he was a very superstitious person. And I remember one day we were sitting out on his back porch, and we was talking about some things. And all of a sudden, these crows start to gather in the trees, and them crows went to cackling and hawking and everything. And my father said, "Be quiet." He said, "Don't talk." He said, "Those crows will hear you talking about folks, and they will go back and tell them folks what you said about them." I had to look at him. Okay, we won't talk until after these crows have gone about their business. When I was a young man, And as they say out in the world, doing my thing, having fun. And you've heard me say many times, I'll be standing on the corner at night under a light pole. You know, um, country folks don't know anything about that, but city folks know that, on just about every corner there's a lamp pole, and we not having a whole lot to do. We would stand underneath the light pole at night. Somebody would bring a bottle of wine and we would pass that bottle of wine around, everybody get a sip, and then we get to feeling good and we start to singing. In those early years, that was life for me. It was like, okay, what corner are we going to hang on tonight? But then I got to the point where things start to drift away from the light pole. And all types of things start to happening to me. And I remember one time I said to God, God, you gave me this life and I done messed it up. Now I'm giving it back to you because I can't handle it. I was done. Nothing was working for me. Everything was going in the opposite direction. And I knew why. Because I thought that I could do it all myself. I thought it was all about me. Do whatever I wanted to do. Didn't have to answer to nobody. That's how we get when we get most kids when they get 21. I'm grown. You don't tell me what to do. I do what I want to do. Well, I was in that same band one time. But it didn't take me a long time to realize it wasn't working out for me. But there was something in me that was saying to me, God has something better for you, something more than standing on the corner under the street light drinking that old wine. But if you want to get drunk on the Spirit. Drink the wine of truth. And so I started my journey. But my journey wasn't outward into the world. It was inward. I was tired, basically, of being tired. I was tired of going through the trials and tribulations. I wanted some peace. I wanted some happiness. I wanted some prosperity. I wanted all of the good things that I've heard people talk about. So I had to turn my life over. I had to give it back to the source. And I used to say, and still say to this day, take me and use me according to thy will. Let thy will be done in me, through me, and out into the world. You see, I took the yoke of God upon me. I hooked up. I hooked up. And I remember one time I went to see this man, and I share this with you. Searching, seeking to understand better, more what life was or is. And he said to me, these were his exact words. He said, one day, this light is going to grab your ass and turn you every which way but loose. And so it did. He spoke a truth. And to this day, this light has had such a profound effect upon me that there is no place else, nowhere else that I can go. Nothing else that I want to do. Nothing else that I want to be other than a channel through which that God consciousness is manifesting and expressing. And since I have, as they say in the Orthodox and traditional church, since I have turned my life over to God, it has been easy. Burdens have been lifted. I'm not stressed. I have no lack and no limitation. I don't worry about what tomorrow will bring. I enjoy what today has blessed me with. You see, when I get up in the morning and I look in the mirror, I look beyond this physical form and I say, I am the light of God's consciousness, manifesting and expressing in and through this physical body. I realize and know that I am not the mind, I'm not the body. I am a divine, immortal, spiritual being, having a human experience. And as I affirm the very truth of what I am, the very essence, I also know from the very depths of my being that I am in control of my life, that I can create the good or that I can create, as they say, the bad. And I have come to know and to realize and to internalize within me that whatever it is that I create, whatever it is that I bring forth into my outer world, I can blame no one but myself. For the world has no power over me. All power that there is within me. God power, not man power, God power. And so it is from this source that I live, move, and have my being in the consciousness, in the oneness, in the light and life and the power of God. We have to hook up. We have to yoke up with this source that is within and not be so conceited to think that it is all me. It is all I, the small I, that is doing the work. It is the I am consciousness of God that is working in you and through you and out into your environment, blessing you, giving you the strength, giving you the knowledge and the wisdom to do, and the power. And so if you want to be free of the stress, if you want to be free of the suffering, if you want to be free of the headaches, the backaches, and all of them other kind of aches, turn within and take the yoke of God upon you. Namaste. God bless you.